So what actually sits hidden directly behind your stomach and intestines? Well, if you've ever found yourself wondering about the complex abdominal cavity anatomy hiding just beneath the surface, you are in the exact right place. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Welcome to the Hidden Organs Masterclass. Today, we're going to decode the absolutely incredible machinery working inside of you. We'll be looking really closely at kidney anatomy, the spleen, and the adrenal glands. Honestly, it helps to think of your abdomen as a highly efficient, high-tech factory. And today, we are going to meet the key players running the factory floor.
Here is our quick tour for today. First, we'll look at the spleen, then the kidneys, followed by the ureters, the adrenal glands, and finally, the omentum. Let's get started. First up on the tour, the spleen, otherwise known as your lymphatic bodyguard.
Now, what's really interesting about this organ is how it acts as your body's silent bodyguard. It's actually the single largest organ of the human lymphatic system. It sits neatly in the left upper quadrant of your abdomen, specifically in what we call the left hypochondriac region. It rests safely tucked up against the diaphragm, perfectly protected by your 9th, 10th, and 11th ribs. It also anchors to the stomach and the left kidney using specialized connective bands known as the gastrosplenic and splenorenal ligaments. And here's a fun fact. Both of those ligaments actually arise from a larger structure called the greater omentum, which we are going to uncover a little bit later. Moving right along to Section 2, the kidneys, your body's dual filtration plant. Okay, this next part is often completely misunderstood. Most people know kidneys filter urine, but understanding how this retroperitoneal dual filtration plant physically sits in the body is just incredible. When you're in a supine position, meaning lying flat on your back, these bean-shaped organs extend from your T12 vertebra all the way down to your L3 vertebra. But if you look at their height, they aren't even. The right kidney actually sits just a bit lower than the left one. Why? Simply because it has to make room for your massive liver, which is sitting right above it, taking up real estate.
And that height difference brilliantly illustrates the complex, crowded neighborhood these kidneys live in. On the anterior side, meaning the front, the right kidney is touching the liver and the descending part of the duodenum. Meanwhile, the front of the left kidney connects with the stomach, the spleen, and the pancreas. But looking posteriorly on the backside of both kidneys, they rest right up against critical deep back muscles, specifically the psoas major and the quadratus lumborum.
So how does this filtration plant actually flow? Deep inside the kidney, sandwiched between the outer renal cortex and the inner renal medulla, there's a very strict sequential exit route for urine. It drains from the papillary ducts, right at the tips of the renal pyramids, and flows into the minor calyces. Several of these minor calyces then merge together into major calyces. Finally, those major calyces fuse to form the funnel-shaped renal pelvis. You can think of that pelvis as the ultimate exit door.
Now, obviously, a system this vital needs intense security. The kidneys are completely encased in a really unique arrangement of fat and extraperitoneal fascia. Moving from the inside out, you've got perinephric fat completely hugging the kidney. Then there's a membranous condensation known as the renal fascia, and finally an outer layer of perinephric fat. That renal fascia is so extensive and protective, it literally encloses the adrenal glands that sit right on top of the kidneys too.
Let's move to Section 3, the ureters. Think of this as the plumbing network.
Here is where it gets super interesting. The ureters act as the body's strict, highly muscular plumbing network. Once the urine leaves that renal pelvis we just talked about, it travels straight downward through these two tubes. They move retroperitoneally, sliding right along the medial side of that thick psoas major muscle, then confidently cross over the common iliac artery at the pelvic brim, finally reaching the pelvic cavity to enter the urinary bladder.
But this plumbing network operates under a strict rule of 3. There are 3 very specific constrictions, or pinch points, along the ureter's path. Number 1 is right at the ureteral-pelvic junction, right as it leaves the kidney. Number 2 is exactly where it crosses those common iliac vessels. And number 3 is right where the ureters enter the wall of the urinary bladder itself. This is highly relevant clinically. Why? Because these narrow bottlenecks are the most common spots for blockages, like incredibly painful kidney stones.
All right, Section 4, the adrenals, your hormone command center.
Let's shift our focus to your body's hormone command center. These glands sit directly associated with the superior poles or the tops of the kidneys. What's absolutely fascinating here is the physical difference between the two sides. The right adrenal gland is shaped a bit like a pyramid and sits apically, meaning right at the apex or top. The left adrenal gland, however, is actually larger. shaped like a half moon or semilunar, and sits a little bit more medially. Inside, both of them feature an outer adrenal cortex that pumps out steroid hormones like cortisol and an inner adrenal medulla that produces catecholamines, like adrenaline.
As you might guess, all of that rapid hormone production requires a massive, demanding blood supply. In fact, these tiny glands borrow from 3 distinct arterial sources. The superior suprarenal arteries come all the way from the inferior phrenic arteries up near the diaphragm. The middle suprarenal arteries branch directly off your body's massive abdominal aorta, and the inferior suprarenal arteries arise from the renal arteries below. It is an incredibly extensive, redundant network for such small organs.
Okay, I want to drop a genuinely surprising fact right here regarding their nerve supply. The adrenal medulla is innervated by preganglionic sympathetic fibers arising all the way from spinal levels T5 down to T8. The wild part about this? They pass right through the sympathetic trunk and the prevertebral plexus without ever synapsing. They run completely uninterrupted, directly wiring into the cells of the adrenal medulla. That direct connection is exactly what allows for those instantaneous, lightning-fast fight-or-flight stress responses.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the omentum, the abdominal apron.
This final structure is so often completely missed by beginners, but it's absolutely crucial for understanding the whole anatomical picture. So, stripping away the complex jargon, what exactly is the omentum? Simply put, it's a sheet-like fatty tissue layer created by folds of the peritoneum. It attaches directly to your stomach and encloses nerves, blood vessels, and lymphatics. But here's the real kicker. It is not just some inert apron for fat storage. The omentum actually plays a surprisingly vital role in immune regulation and actual tissue regeneration.
Let's go back to that apron analogy, because it's perfect here. The greater omentum is that large, visually striking fold that literally hangs down from the greater curvature of the stomach. It drops down, passing right in front of the small intestine, before looping all the way back up. The lesser omentum is a much smaller double layer that extends upwards from the lesser curvature of the stomach and the duodenum, connecting directly to the liver. All right, let's do a rapid-fire recap of our amazing abdominal factory with 5 key takeaways from today's explainer. 1. The spleen acts as our lymphatic bodyguard, safely tucked up under the ribs. 2. The kidneys are our dual filtration plant, spanning roughly from T12 to L3. 3. The ureters form a strict plumbing network with exactly 3 constriction points. 4. The adrenals act as our hormone command center, complete with direct, uninterrupted nerve wiring straight to the medulla. And 5. The omentum serves as our incredible immune-regulating abdominal apron.
I want to end today's explainer with this slightly provocative thought. If the omentum acts as nature's bandage, packed with all these amazing immune regulation and tissue regeneration capabilities, how does it know exactly where to migrate inside the dark, crowded abdomen to heal an inflamed organ? It's like it has a mind of its own. What surprised you the absolute most about the abdominal cavity today? Let us know your thoughts below. And please, don't forget to subscribe for more simple, engaging medical explanations. See you next time.